What's happening, guys? I've been getting a lot of requests recently to do some slower beginner-friendly tutorials. So this tutorial is my attempt at providing an easy to follow, simple tutorial for some of you guys that are just starting out. In this tutorial, we'll be modeling a badge that has taken inspiration from the popular Clash Royale game, and we're basically redoing the badge and its logo. It will be a modeling focus tutorial. We'll add some basic materials at the end, but I wanted just to focus on modeling. So let me know your feedback and enjoy. Shift A, go to mesh, add a plane, R for rotation, X 90. So we've rotated it along the X axis 90 degrees. Now we go into edit mode by pressing tab. Press 2 to select your edges, select this edge, and Control R to add a loop cut. Now we select this loop cut that we've just made and press Control B. Mouse scroll your wheel up once to add an extra cut in there and click to select. Now again, Control R in the middle to add a loop cut in the middle. Now if we press 1 and select our vertices, select this vertices, we can press G, Z and move it up. Great. Now select this vertice and press G, Z and move it down. In fact, select all of these three, not all of them, just these three, and press G, Z, move it down, and G, Z, move it down. Now if we go to front view, G, Z, straighten it off. Press 3 on your keyboard, into edit mode, press 3 and select these faces. I for insetting, so we will inset it like that. If we now select this rim that we've just made, holding Alt and clicking on this line, we'll select a loop. Now if we press Shift D, right click, then P, selection. Now we have two objects. We have the rim that we've made and the underlying layer. Selecting the rim that we've made, we come to our modifiers and add a solidifier. Now give this some thickness, something like this. Great. Now if I go to my front view, you can click your front view by clicking on these here as well. So if we click on this, for example, select both of these, S, X, make it a bit bigger. Something like that is perfect. With our rim selected, let's change the name so we understand what's going on. Rim. With the plane selected, let's call it panels. Sometimes this happens where you have, one object the same color as other objects. Oh, and by the way, to get this up, you come here, matte cap, make sure you select random, and then it will give your objects a random color. So let's just rename this. Sometimes all you need to do is rename the first letter at the beginning. So if I call this, so now it's changed the color of that. Select the panels, into edit mode, press 1 to select your vertice, select that vertice and that vertice, and now we are going to bring them in the middle and try and straighten these lines out. There's two ways we can do this. We can just simply go to our front view and select one and drag it across, or we can select both and then hit S, X and just drag them in until you're happy. Try and keep it as straight as possible. Something like that is perfect. Back out of edit mode and into object mode. Now if we select our panel and again add a solidifier to this, so modifiers, solidify, and give it a bit of thickness. And as you can see, sometimes this happens, which is Z fighting, where basically the panel section is exactly in the same coordinates as the rim section. So with the panel section selected, press S and holding down S and Shift, or holding down Shift, just slightly make it a bit smaller. So the panels is slightly smaller than the rim, and pressing G, Y, I'm just going to move it slightly in a bit, just so it's not giving that Z fighting. Now with the rim selected, we want to give this a bit more shape. So first we'll go to our modifiers with the rim selected. On the drop down here, click apply. So that basically bakes that solidify down. Now if we go into edit mode and press Ctrl R on your keyboard and add a loop cut here, stick it in the middle, click. Now with it selected, press G, Y and bring it out, just to give that rim a bit more definition. To create the crown, let's add a plane. So I'll bring in a plane. I'll press R, X, 90, enter, then G, Y. So it's just in front so I can see what I'm doing. Now if I go to edit mode, select Ctrl R on the keyboard and we're going to do some loop cuts and then mouse scroll up to have 2 loop cuts. Now if I select my edges by pressing 2, select this edge and extrude upwards, pressing Z to constrain it to that axis. Now if I go to 1 to select vertices, press S, X and then in. Now if I Control A and apply all, now if I go to my modifiers, add an array, select 3, add another modifier, a simple deform, put it to bend, put the angle to 360 degrees on the Z, and we have the beginnings of our crown. You can't see the back here, and the reason for that is because I have backface culling turned off. You can turn it on or off here, and that just shows you the back of your polygons. So in this instance, let's turn it off. Now I need to give this, I think, probably one more array. That looks a bit better. And now on top of that, I think also I would like to bring this down a bit. So bring that down, bring that up. Now if we add a solidify, bring it up a bit like that. And now on top of the solidify, let's add a weld and drag the weld just before the solidify. Now if we right click shade smooth, as you can see it looks a bit weird. Come to your normals, object data properties, normals, and stick it on 60 degrees. Now as you can see, you have some kind of shading issues here, and that's just because we haven't got enough geometry. So what we need to do is, if we go into edit mode, select this face, let's add some loop cuts here. So Control R, I'll add some loop cuts horizontally and a loop cut vertically and another loop cut vertically and another loop cut vertically. Now we have a bit more geo and the whole thing looks a lot nicer. I've just noticed my screencast keys are not on, so let me turn them on and off. Okay, so now let's select the crown. Let's make the crown slightly smaller. So S to scale, just get it somewhere nice, put it something like that, and bring it down, GZ, scale it up just a bit, and there we go. Now if I go into edit mode, I want these to be slightly bigger, so something like that. Now if I go into edit mode again and select the edges, select this edge, GZ, move it down, bevel, like that, and Alt E, and then extrude along normals. Let's just bring it out something along that. Now you have this line here, and the reason that is because we've got a poly here. So select 3, select this poly, X, delete faces, and there we go. Okay, good. So I'm liking the look of this. So now what we can do, some sort of taper just to kind of bring this bottom bit in and the top out a bit. So how we do that is, first of all, we need to add a lattice. So Shift A, then lattice. Now we scale this box, which is the lattice, up to encompass all everything, the whole crown basically. So now with the crown selected, we add another modifier. Let's minimize these just so we can see things a bit better. Let's add the lattice with the lattice modifier. Now we select the box that we made as a lattice. Okay, great. So now we can edit this lattice. If we go into edit mode, select the vertices, SY or SX, sorry, just to bring it out a bit. And let's select these bottom ones, SX, and bring it in a bit. And as you can see, it's basically tapered the crown. So now I think the crown's a bit too big, so I'm going to select the crown plus the lattice and scale it. And yeah, I'm happy with that. In fact, I think I will bring this down a bit. So into edit mode, select these vertices, G, Z, just to give it a bit more. Now select the lattice and G, Z, just position it so it's right. So yeah, that looks good to me. In fact, maybe we can make this frame a bit bigger. So if I select the rim, go into edit mode, into polygon, select this loop by selecting Alt. Now I've selected this loop and I'm going to scale. Yeah, I think that looks a lot nicer, just beefy, right? Okay, cool. Now it's time to work on this section, which is called the panels. So this is going to be some wooden panels. So with the panels selected here, let's apply the solidify. Now, to make the wood here, we're going to make use of the Blender sculpting features. So let's go over to the sculpting panel at the top. And with the panels selected, as you can see, if you used to try and sculpt on this, there's just not enough geometry at the moment. So we need to remesh this section. And we can do that by coming here to the object data properties and choosing voxel or quad. Let's just go with voxel. Now, coming back here, if I press Shift R, it gives me like a visual indication of the size of the quads when we're going to remesh this. So let's just go something like that. You want it to be quite dense, but not super dense, because if it's super dense, it's just going to slow your computer down. So I like to go something like this. And now press Ctrl R, and that has remeshed it. So now if we sculpt, you can see it works. But then I'll come over to the modifiers and add a multi-resolution and subdivide once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and I think that will be okay. Now, if we was to sculpt on this, as you can see, it's a lot better now. So let me undo that. So now let's sculpt our wood. So pressing F on the keyboard. Oh, by the way, as you can see, the brush does not look right. It doesn't look straight. So the reason for that is because we need to apply the object properties for this. So if we come back to layout, select this object, press Ctrl A, apply all. Now go back to sculpting, and there you go. Your brush now is how it should be. So if I go to my front view, let me hide the floor. So if I come here, we don't want to see the floor, deactivate that. Great. So now we can just simply sculpt some wood. I'll do some panel lines. So it's almost like these are four different panels. What you can do is if you come to stroke here and stabilize stroke, put the radius a bit higher, maybe 128, and now you can kind of get a more slower stroke, which is easier to use to get straight lines and accurate lines. So I'm just going over these just to give it that definition. And now pressing F, I'm going to bring my brush down. I'll bring the strength down. And again, I'll just do some lines. Don't want to be too straight. It could be quite loose. No, you don't want to do that. So undo that. Take it off stabilize stroke. And I can have a bit more. Let me undo that. I wasn't happy with that one. Just going in, select scene. Scene will make your brush more, how can I explain it? So let me show you an example. So if we go to scene, the brush will say, the size will stay consistent. If we go to view, the brush will be the brush size will be dependent on the view. So if I come here, and now if I zoom in, you see it's thinner if I zoom in. So let me do scene again and then bring the brush size down. Get some little lines in there. I'm literally just dragging on my mouse and being not accurate at all because this is just going to be a playful design, you know, we don't need to be too realistic with this. Yeah, and I think that will do. Let's go back to our layout. Now, as you can see, you can't see it here. So if you come to your multi-res modifier, click plus, 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 and now we can see it. Okay, now to get rid of the back half of this crown, because we don't want it to come through this shield, what we can do is we'll boolean half of it away. So we'll add a cube, position the cube into the correct place, select the crown, add a boolean modifier. With the eyedropper, select the cube, difference and self. Now, as we can't really see what's going on inside this cube, what we can do is with the cube selected, we can come to our object properties, scroll down, display as wire. And now that gives us visibility inside to see what's going on. And we can just position our cube where we want it. Something like that. Just so the crown ends at the right place. Okay, cool. Now that we're happy, let's select the crown and apply this boolean. Great, so now that's cut half the crown off. So what we can do is delete this cube. We don't need it anymore. So select and then X to delete. Great. Now what we can do is let's give the crown a bevel. So if we go into edit mode and select edges, select this edge and select these outer edges here, we want to add a nice bevel. So go around, select all these edges. I just want the bevel on the outside. In fact, not on the inside here, sorry. So great, I've selected all the edges that I want. Now press Ctrl B and mouse scroll up just to give it some more segments. And actually, I think we should probably do that non-destructively. So let's undo that. Now, if we come up to tool here, or sorry, item, transform, mean bevel weight, let's put that to 1. Now, if we add a bevel modifier and select the limit method to weight, it will just do it along the weight. So now if we go to geometry, turn off clamp overlap and give it a couple of segments, and now we can modify how we'd like it. So let's stick it to something like that. Perfect. Now let's do the same for the rim. So selecting the rim, go into edit mode, into edges. I want this edge, and yeah, let's do the outside edge as well. Actually, no, I'll keep the outside edge like that for the time being. So I just want these two edges to be slightly beveled. So let's add another bevel weight of 1. Let's add a bevel modifier. Bring the segments up. To the weight that we've set there. So it just gives it that extra bit of smoothness there. Perfect. Now let's add some materials. Coming over to our shading tab, select the rim, create a new material. We'll just do a simple gold. So let's go to something like, something like that. Then put the metallic all the way up. Roughness, let's bring it down a bit. I'm liking it. Now selecting the wood, let's create a new material. We'll do it blue. So it's like a painted wood. Bring the roughness up a bit. Select the crown. Come to your materials tab. And select the gold material. And there we go. And this is the finished piece. I've added a roughness map to the gold texture to give it that breakup and gave this a real basic animation just to present it. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions or you get stuck, just leave a message down below and I'll do my best to help you out.